So one thing that Windows 10 introduces is new management capabilities. So we manage our Windows OS with SCCM, but like if you want to manage iOS or Android, you have to use certain policies called MDM, mobile device management. Windows 10 introduces a lot of MDM type management capabilities. We still have the power of SCCM, and we're still going to leverage that power. But MDM is designed for more bring your own device type scenarios. If you're familiar with things like WMI, when you're trying to query for something, there's a whole bunch of new classes for MDM, so you can do a lot more with it. This is called Windows Image Configuration Designer, and it's a deployment method of Windows 10. And I'm bringing it to your attention because it's kind of interesting, the theory behind it. In the past, if you went out to Best Buy and you bought a PC, typically it's running Windows Home or Home Premium, right? And you bring it into the district, and we can't manage it, we can't do anything with it unless we put our image on it. So one thing that Microsoft has introduced is something called, it's like a provisioning package, and it's something that we can generate, and you run on the PC that's being brought into the organization. So what it'll do is it'll actually change the SKU of Windows from Home Premium to Enterprise version, and then lights up all the features so that we can enable it and manage it the way that we want to. It'll join it to the domain for you. It will install applications for you. It'll put certain policies in place and compliance baselines, stuff like that. But what's happening is you're not re-imaging the device. You still retain your data, your applications, your files, all of that. You're just making it essentially organization compliant, so you can bring it up to a level that we expect to manage. And then once you're done, you can actually remove the provisioning package, and it'll go back to the way that it was. So it's a very interesting theory. I have not actually tried it. I've created a provisioning package, but I haven't had an actual device to test it on. I don't see the use case all that much here, but it is nice to know that we have that option available if that use case arises. So like I said, domain join, you can enroll it. Enforcement of security policies, provisioning of Wi-Fi, VPN, email accounts, stuff like that. So we can set it to that user's specific email account, and it'll automatically configure Outlook for them. It will automatically connect them to DISD or DISD Pub, so that they don't have to go change all those settings themselves. So there might be some like lighter cases where we could say install this DISD wireless provisioning package, where it'll actually enable you to go connect to DISD on your home device instead of going through all these various settings, because it's a pain to do that right now. So interesting concept. Just kind of want y'all to know that is out there and cool. Do y'all have any questions on that? So the next thing I want to talk about are future updates. So Windows 10 is essentially the last OS that Microsoft is going to ship as far as a new version of Windows. Okay, they may rename it Windows 12 or something like that later down the line, but the base code is still the same. It used to be that there was a new version of Windows every 2 to 3 years, right? It was XP in 2001. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm starting there. Then Vista in 2006. Then 7 in 2009. Etc. so forth, all the way up to 8.1 and now 10. So there's a span of 20 years right there in Windows versions, and so now Windows is being treated as a service, much like iOS and Android. So it's constantly being updated, it's constantly getting new features, it's constantly getting security fixes, but without a whole new reinstall of Windows or an upgrade. So it'll be interesting to see how they deliver new builds over time through Windows Update, because that is their delivery mechanism. But know that it's going to be constantly updated. The first bullet point kind of explains how these updates are being delivered and being tested through Microsoft. So the first thing that Microsoft does when they develop the new build is they're going to deploy it to their internal ring. Okay, and they use the rings kind of like a tree where it's going to grow out, right? So you have a smaller pilot group of test users, and then it expands and expands and expands. So what they'll do is first they'll dog food. They'll test it on themselves, see how well it's doing. We actually, I don't know if anybody caught it, I did yesterday that the Microsoft guy who was here, he's actually running a version of Windows 10 that hasn't been released yet to insiders. So at the top I have Insider Fast and Insider Slow. So what does that mean? It means that Microsoft has released a program for individuals to participate in called the Insider Ring, Windows Insider Ring. So the Insider Fast is the very first ring that will get public release of it. There will be bugs, there will be issues with it, but you get to see the new features firsthand. So it'll go Microsoft first, and then the public Insider Ring. Okay, anybody can join it as long as you have a Microsoft account. You can join it, and you just have to go into Windows Update and enable that. You can join which ring you want. And then there's the Insider Slow. So you still get the new features, but you get updates a little less often, but still faster than public release. So the Insider Fast ring is going to find a bunch of bugs, they're going to fix it, and then they're going to release the next build, which will be acceptable for the slower Insider ring. So they get to still see the new features. They don't bug test as much, but they do still bug test some as compared to public release. Once it's past both Microsoft internal ring, the fast ring, the slow ring, then it is released to the consumers, which is called the current branch. It's current branch for public. More than likely, consumer devices are on it. You can have it. Again, you can enable it here. But what Microsoft's thinking here is that we're going to test on our people, then we're going to test on these insiders who are willing to give it a shot, get feedback from them, fix these things, and then we'll push it out to the public. That's not great for business, right? Business, we have to test and we have to make sure everything's compatible and figure out what we need to do with these new features. That there's so many obstacles that we have to overcome before we can just implement something new. So that's why they have the public branch, and then they'll do current branch for business. The current branch for business, it will be released to us. We can deploy it out that way. And I don't have it up there. There's actually one more ring. But the current branch for business gives us an 8-month window to deploy that update, which is still kind of fast, right? We're used to 2 or 3 years before we deploy something, and we're going to be given 8 months before something is done. But look at how much it's tested. It's gone through Microsoft's internal stuff, it's gone through the Insider Fast, the Insider Slow, and then public release. So by public release, most of the bugs are fixed. We just got to figure out how to make it work for us. In education, we only have that option, the current branch for business. So what we're going to be doing, what did you say?
Microsoft doesn't have old computers.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. So that's a great example. We've got to think about that. So there's another branch which you should note, and that's the long-term servicing branch, and that is meant for computers that are not meant to be updated. For example, the heart rate monitors in hospitals and stuff like that, the devices that run Windows that can't be updated frequently because lives are literally at stake. With updates that could break something, that's what's on the long-term servicing branch. And if you're on a long-term servicing branch, then you have a 10-year window to deploy an update. So we don't have that option because we're education, so we only get current branch for business. So when we adopt Windows 10, then we'll have to get used to, at the very minimum, or I guess the maximum, we can only get is an 8-month window of a certain build of Windows. Now, Microsoft says that they're coming out with a very brand new version, a new build, like a major release every year, just like iOS and Android. But just like iOS and Android, there's still little feature updates quarterly or even by semester or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the updates are deployed and how it's going to work. But know that it's going to be at a much faster pace, and we have to keep up with that. So it's all delivered through Windows Update. We can still control those updates through SCCM, but then we'll still have to deal with it. The example that he told us yesterday was, if you have 8 months, then you can deploy it over Christmas break, winter break, summer break, that kind of stuff. So it's definitely something that we rework our processes and kind of how we're dealing with updates and stuff like that. So know that the constant is change, especially here. I talked about it the last time, the last training, and this is kind of my own personal view, I guess. But I think we're at an interesting dynamic right now because students, with this being released at public release, students and staff get this before we do, right? They know about it. It's there on their machine. They're running it. And students are already kind of like, why aren't we using the latest and greatest, and so not only by not keeping up with that, we're disengaging them, but then at the same time, in class we did a study, and it turns out that my generation of new employees who are going out into the workforce, they actually judge the technology that the company is using and choose their employer based on that technology. So if it's old, ancient technology, they're like, why would I want to work for you? So not only does the technology, is that a factor in their decision to work there, that shows, there's a potential that we're going to lose out on great employees. So, but at the same time, we still have staff who are unwilling to change, resistant to change. We still have business processes that we have to account for. We still have limitations as far as like hardware and applications and compatibility that we've got to address with moving forward. So it's an interesting time right now, and not that we haven't always had that problem, it's just a little more relevant and a little more in your face, I think. So interesting dynamics there, and we've got to figure that out. I make a note in here. Next summer they're releasing Redstone, which is the next major release for Windows 10. Now you've heard that I kept talking about November, that there's going to be a major release in November, but there is. So this is supposed to be even a bigger change than the change in November. So actually November could be considered a minor change. When Microsoft released Windows 10 on July 29th, it was actually early. They planned on releasing Windows 10 in October to be the final build or whatever, but they had OEM pressure from Dell, HP, those people, because of back to school. So PC sales have kind of went down, and they were looking for Windows 10 to bring that market back onto the rise, especially with back to school. So Microsoft kind of caved, and they shipped Windows 10 a little bit early, in my opinion. So November is going to be the release that's supposed to make Windows 10 the full version that was supposedly going to be released in October. Does that make sense? So, and then in summer was going to be the next major overhaul, and right now it's codenamed as Redstone. So just know that they're already planning and they're already developing the next versions, and they're out there. So that's just an example of how fast it's moving. Do you have questions on that? There have been, this one has some small little exercise with it, so I'm going to talk about this real quick. There's, of course, a ton of security improvements with everything. They have introduced something called Device Guard, and Device Guard is a feature that we can enable as an enterprise. It's not meant for consumer devices. It's more meant for enterprise and corporations. It'll block any apps that are not trusted. It'll lock down devices in certain ways with the hard drive, and especially in combination with things like hardware encryption like BitLocker that we don't really utilize. It'll work with your antivirus to just control some different things, and it's meant for like flash drives, when flash drives, malicious flash drives are stuck in there, that it scans the drive and stuff like that. Old technology, but a new way of doing it. So it's just updated technology. They introduced something called Windows Hello, and Windows Hello is an biometric authentication mechanism. It's meant for cameras and fingerprint readers, so the cameras will scan your face or your iris or the fingerprint readers will scan your fingerprints so that you can unlock your devices without having a password. Because passwords are very insecure. They work to an extent, but they are definitely hackable. It's a lot harder to hack your iris and your face and your fingerprint. Unless they cut your finger off or your eye out or something. In combination with that, they have Microsoft Passport, which is kind of programming with, in combination with Windows Hello. It'll actually help with storing all that data, but it doesn't store it locally. And there's a video I'll show that kind of explains a lot better than I can. But it's like a passport, so it'll have all your applications and your services tied to it, so that when you authenticate to not just the operating system but into secure applications, you can still do that with your iris and stuff like that. So I know that wasn't a good explanation, but I'll show a video that does it better. And of course, they've joined the FIDO Alliance, and they're certified with them, so everything is enterprise ready. But let me show you the video really quick. It's kind of long, so bear with it.
More personal and more secure. We want to make your interactions with computing devices more like interacting with another person. So the first capability we call Windows Hello, where your computing devices recognize you. This technology then gets you in securely with less hassle than a password into your computer. From there, we have the new feature, Microsoft Passport. Microsoft Passport allows you to get into your applications and online content without the need for a password at all. More secure and easier to use.
It's built on a technology called asymmetric key cryptography. It's the kind of technology that powers things like smart cards. It's how you verify web servers. It's used by cell phones to verify networks. It's a technology that's been around for a long time. It's well proven, but it's never made its way into something that real consumers can use. With Windows Hello, you can use your fingerprint, face, or iris, and you get enterprise-grade security with nothing that attackers are able to steal. They can't watch you enter your PIN, they can't steal your password. You get all of that security that an IT organization would expect from smart cards with the familiarity and personal experience of Windows Hello.
And this technology we've developed over the years, based on what we've learned with Kinect, early versions of Kinect, we've evolved that and include it right into Windows. It uses new infrared technology that makes it much more reliable in different lighting conditions, with cosmetics, with facial hair. And this is part of what allows us to get that facial recognition all the way up to what we call enterprise grade, over 1 in 100,000 false accept rate. So they can be a trusted way to recognize you and authenticate you, both in the enterprise, in your work environment, but also at home as a consumer, unlocking your Microsoft Passport as you're visiting online sites and content.
Microsoft Passport will work with your Microsoft account. It will work with Azure Active Directory and the thousands of web services that
Azure Active Directory is Office 365.
But we wanted to build something that would also work with other sites and services. So we joined the FIDO Alliance so we could contribute this technology and make it available so it could be used across devices you use every day against all the different websites and services you use every day. As a hacker, if I get a hold of your password, I can use that from anywhere. But with Microsoft Passport, the key is actually bound in hardware to my device. So the only way a hacker can use my identity is to actually steal the device. Now, when you use Microsoft Passport with Windows Hello, that means not only does the attacker have to steal my device, but they also have to be able to use my biometric, like my face, my fingerprint, or my iris, which is super challenging.
We have anti-spoofing capabilities built in so that you can't use a photograph or a selfie on someone's phone to log in and impersonate someone else. But that's part of the promise, is you're not logging into the website with your face. You have possession of your device, you're unlocking the device with your face, and then your device is authenticating on your behalf. Windows Hello was designed with privacy in mind. It never stores an image of your face or your iris on the device. Instead, it authenticates you locally, and then unlocks Microsoft Passport, which then cryptographically authenticates you with the websites and applications that you visit. And that way, your biometric information is never transmitted and used in a way where someone else could recreate that information.
You may have seen in the news in the last year that a Russian hacker posted 1.2 billion passwords on the net. Now, given that we only have around 2 billion users online, that's not great for users. But with technology like Microsoft Passport, when attackers are able to compromise servers, there's nothing for them to steal. There's nothing there that can compromise your identity. If they control one of those servers, all they get are a bunch of public keys, which aren't useful to the attacker at all.
So it's all about making your computing experiences easier to use and more secure at the same time.
Okay. And so really the exercise that I'm showing you is, and I should write this down because it's wrong. You go into the services, and I'm just trying to get y'all to identify the service that helps with some of that. The service that I'm mentioning in there is called Next Generation Credentials. That's been renamed to cryptographic services or something like that. So really, I just wanted y'all to see that that's in there. The one last thing that the exercise talks about is it kind of falls in line with security, but it's backup. And I don't know if any of y'all have used Windows 8 for your main PC at home, but under the update and security section, under the backup, there's something called file history. And file history allows you to take a snapshot of your C drive, your local disk, and copy that over to an external drive. But it's done initially, and then it's done incrementally. So every time you save something on your desktop, it's reflected on the backup. So instead of, it copies like the entire C drive, so it's not just your desktop and your documents and everything, it's your entire user profile and every other user profile on there. So it's a great feature. I use it on my computer here, and it saved me more than once. And the other thing that I wanted to show you was the recovery option. In case something does happen, you can go back to an earlier build with Windows 10. On your computers, since we upgraded these, it'll actually say go back to Windows 7. So please don't do that. Please stay on Windows 10. I'm trying to get y'all to use it and get familiar with it. But just know that that does exist. So with that, that is that. So you don't have to go through that. On the back of your thing is an appendix, and it has a bunch of Cortana questions and stuff. So that's really all I have for y'all. So if y'all want to look at the services, you can, and the backup stuff, but there's really not much in the exercise to do. So, what is it? Okay.